So this morning, we're going to continue our Lifeway series, and we're going to talk about an aspect of time management. Very familiar topic, but we just need to remind ourselves about some things this morning. So I'm going to be talking about an aspect of time management, and that is prioritization. Prioritization. So first of all, what is time management? You know, one of the things we all have in common as human beings is time. It's 24 hours a day in Lagos. If you move to Kaduna, it's still the same 24 hours a day. If you move to the UK, 24 hours a day, 365 days in a year, same time. But how do we use our time is very important. Time management has to do with effective planning and controlling how you spend your time. Have you ever heard of the statement or the phrase, time wasters? You've heard about it? Yeah. There are things that are time wasters. And sometimes lack of proper planning of time can also result to waste of time. And one of the things you don't want to see at the end of the day is that time has passed and you have not been able to achieve anything, right? Sometimes it puts you under pressure. Is that not so? Particularly when you see other people who have moved or seemingly look like they have moved ahead. So there are different aspects of time management. There is the planning and scheduling, prioritization, goal setting, eliminating distractions, delegation, time blocking, and sometimes saying no, right? Sometimes absolutely, outrightly saying no. But what we want to talk about today is prioritization, setting priorities. I think I've shared this before, but I don't know whether it was on this platform, that I went to a friend's house, and in the morning, after the morning devotion, he was living with his uncle. And the next morning, after the morning devotion, the man asked and said, "What is your plan for the day?" And I said to him, I don't have a plan. Just go out and do whatever comes my way. Hallelujah. And the man shook his head and told me that day that if you don't have a plan for the day, it's as good as a wasted day. He said that if you don't plan for a day, then others can actually engage you to do other things that it's not going to be beneficial to you, but beneficial to them. How many of you can relate? Maybe when you were young. I can relate. You know that maybe in your house on Saturday morning, you are supposed to go do some domestic chores, or maybe they say, "Oh, Saturday morning we are going to the farm," and you don't want to go, you want to run away. What do? You look for one excuse and say one or two things so that you won't be a part of that thing in the morning. Then you go to your friend's house, and by the time you get to your friend's house, which is your hiding place, in that sense, and in your mind you think you have escaped from the work at home. Then as you are getting to your friend's house, the mother says, he's not at home. Oh. I asked him to go and grind something in the market. Whilst you are even waiting for him, can you help me do this? How many of you can relate? Then when you finish that one, they will now tell you, go and meet him in the market. That thing he's carrying will be too heavy for him alone. Help him carry the small bucket. How many of you can relate? Then you find out that at the end of the day, you'd have spent 2-3 hours in your friend's house working for them. something you ran away from your own house. So if we don't manage our time well sometimes, you find out that we will help other people achieve what they need to achieve while we are wasting our own time. So what is prioritization? Prioritization is deciding on your own to know what is important and what is urgent. It's a choice. Nobody's going to do it for you. It's a choice. What is important and what is urgent. There is something called a priority matrix, where you have, it's a 4-quadrant. How many of you know that? Good. You have what is urgent, what is not urgent. Then you have what is important and what is not important. Some things can be urgent, but they are not what? Important. While they can be important, but they are not urgent. While some things can be urgent and they can be also important. So you need to draw up a matrix for yourself and ask yourself, what is urgent? What is important? What is not important? And what is not urgent? You see, sometimes when we talk about time management, I have discovered that if you are not deliberate about working it out, you won't get that discipline. You will just think that you can manage your time, and at the end of the day, you find out that you didn't do anything. And very important is that when it comes to time management, another thing to do is to have a to-do list. To have a what? To-do list. How many of you drop a to-do list? Let me just say, okay, drop a to-do list. Sometimes, do you actually finish everything on that list? No. And sometimes you also find out that even after you have drawn up a to-do list, you still don't do what? Follow your to-do list. What? Why? Why? Who can tell us? Sometimes some other things come up. Right? Yes. You have a to-do list. You said, this morning, this is what I'm going to do. Then some things come up. But you see, the reality of it is that if you actually check your to-do list, maybe some things are not urgent there, or some things are not important. So when other things come up, they steal away that time. That's why you must have a matrix. Let me give you an example. Tomorrow is Monday, right? In most organizations, it's a very serious day because the first thing you do is you have meeting, right? Then at that meeting, everybody is asking you how far with the actions of last week. If you come and tell stories, you know you will collect. Abi? Then as you are still struggling to deal with the actions of last week, they are bringing what? Another one. Then you are wondering, you see, there's something we say in my own office. So when you have gone for meetings for hours and you come back, you are fatigued, then to now do the real work, time is gone. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. The thing is, get the job done. That's what they want to hear. Nobody wants to listen to your excuses. And that is why it is important to prioritize your time. Very, very important. So you need to have a to-do list, making a daily priority list. Something happened recently, and there was a task that was supposed to be done, and it had a deadline. You can't exceed that deadline, because if you do, it has regulatory implication for the organization. So somebody who was responsible for getting some of those actions done just woke up 24 hours to the time and started chasing people around. I was chasing people with phone calls. And some people did not respond to the phone calls. And she was in very serious trouble. Then the next thing she did was she wrote a long email writing to the people who didn't respond to her and saying, there are grave consequences for you not to respond to this. And all of that. It did not work. It did not do what? It did not work. If she had prioritized her time and understood the importance of that task and the urgency, she would have chased it longer before that time. Because the people you least expect will disappoint you. I remember, I guess Gaza can relate with this. There was one time we planned to do a drama in this church, and we had been rehearsing for days and even weeks. And one major character that we had all been encouraging, you know, and on the day of the performance, it disappeared. It disappeared. You know, but thank God for experience. We were able to fill in that role. So sometimes people will disappoint you. So that's why you need to plan ahead of time. You need to understand what is your own important task and what is urgent, rather than doing what is not. Right? The next thing is prioritize your most important tasks. Most important. There are some that are not important, while there are some that are most important. So have you seen instances where you are working on something in the office and your boss comes and says, I want you to do this. Your boss knows that you're already working on something, right? Then they say, I want you to do this. And as you are just getting done with that, or you are getting that instruction, another instruction comes from somewhere and say, there's something else to be done, right? So what do you do in that instance? What do you do? A lot of the time, we find out that people get into trouble at the end of the day. And you now feel bad that after all the work I've been doing, nobody appreciates. You've been doing this, you've been doing that, and it doesn't seem like it is making any impact. But the truth of the matter is that the one that matters most to the organization is not the one you were doing. So they won't take you very seriously. So you need to find out what is most important. And sometimes you need to negotiate with your boss on the ones that are not very important. Sometimes a lot of us don't negotiate. They tell you, do this one. I want it tomorrow morning. Yes, sir. Do that one. I want it before you leave the office today. Yes, sir. Everything is yes, sir, yes, sir, yes. And you know that you can't finish it. Have you been there before? You know you can't finish it. You will now be piling the job. Then when you go home to sleep, you can't sleep. Abi? You can't sleep. Then when you wake up in the morning, especially if it is a Monday morning, you now have palpitation. You're now afraid. You're now thinking. And in some instances, you now rush to want to attempt to do the task. Then when you even do it, you now mess it up the more. Then you now still do what? Collect on top. Then you say, this organization, I don't like it. This my oga, I don't like him. I just want to resign. See, it's not every time you should resign. You don't know what's happening on the other side. You don't know what's happening on the other side. So you need to plan, prioritize your tasks. prioritize so that you can save your time, so that you don't waste time at all. Very, very important. So I hope that this week you will begin to put this in mind so that you will plan your time very well. You realize that sometimes our phones can be a distraction. Yes? Just one subtle TikTok video. By the time you finish watching it, what happens next? Another one. And what happens next? Another one. How many minutes are those videos? Sometimes not more than 2 minutes. But before you know what you have done, you have spent 1 hour watching different TikTok videos. And that 1 hour could have been used to do something more productive. We must learn the discipline of saying no to some things. Some of us, sometimes, discipline is very, very, is what we need. You have a task in the office, and you think that, okay, by weekend, I will do it. Then somebody invites you for a wedding in Ibadan. That does not concern you. It's true now. Isn't that what we do sometimes? Somebody invites you for what? A wedding in Ibadan. You say, it's not Ibadan here. 2 hours back. Or 1 hour back. Then you go to Ibadan. And something happens in Ibadan. Maybe it's traffic. Maybe something happened along the way, and you're unable to get back to Lagos until night. And another thing happens, and another thing happened, and you couldn't do that task. Then you do what? You get into trouble. Sometimes you should have the discipline to say, no, I have work to do. I have work to do. So it's very important. So what are the 4 P's, in rounding up, what are the 4 P's of prioritization? If you want to prioritize your work so that you can spend your time effectively, you don't waste much time, what are the 4 things you need to do? Number 1 is prioritize. In order of priority, which one is most important? Which one is most important? In order of priority. If you begin to do that, you will get used to it, that you easily deal with or dispense with some very difficult task, and you will have some peace inside of you. Set priorities for tasks. The second one talks about planning. Once you have identified your top priority tasks to do, then plan. Don't just identify it and sit down. Plan. Plan how you are going to accomplish it. Plan. Plan how you are going to accomplish it. And after you have planned on how you are going to accomplish it, you do what? You prepare to do the job. So it's not just enough to plan and go and sit down. You plan, then you prepare. So in preparing, you have everything that you need to get the job done. Not that you start the task, midway you discover that one of the things you need to get it done is in another town. Then you are confused and you're running helter-skelter. You won't get it done at the end of the day. So start and prepare for the task. And the last one talks about perform. That's the most important aspect of it all. Because if you prioritize, if you plan, if you prepare, and you don't perform, you don't do it, nothing will be achieved at the end of the day. Nothing will be what? Achieved at the end of the day. So when you prioritize, make sure that you end it with doing the task, doing the job. And please, one other thing that I think I need to mention is the fact that, particularly in the work environment, we need to be smart. You know, and I'm not saying you shouldn't help other people. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. You have a task to be done, then somebody brings his or her own tasks to you, which you think you have expertise in, and you spend a couple of hours doing that when you have something that should have been done. That is not wise. Right? That's not wise. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 16, the Bible talks about how we should be wise with spending our time. We should be wise with doing what? Spending our time. Time is precious. Time is very precious. And we can't afford to waste it. I remember when we were in secondary school, we had a vice principal. He's late now. It was an Indian, Mr. Joseph. So during rainy season in my school, every Tuesday, when we were in Form 3, we would go out and do what? Cut grasses. Every Tuesday. So one day, before that time, some boys just gathered together in the classroom and started singing Send Down the Rain. I don't know if you know Send Down the Rain. Yeah. They sang, Send Down the Rain, sang. Rain came down. We didn't cut grass that day. The second week, they sang it again. The rain came down. We didn't cut grass the second week. This thing is working, no? The third week, they sang it again. Rain came. The man came and said, you will cut this grass even under the rain. But there was one thing the man left with us. The man told us, he said, a second lost is lost to eternity. It didn't make sense to us at that time. It didn't make sense to us. He will come and tell us, he said, we're just wasting our time. He said, a second lost is lost to eternity. The moment he steps out of the classroom, everybody is back to the normal thing they are doing. Playing, jumping around, doing all kinds of things. But now it makes sense to a lot of us. A second lost is lost to eternity. Spend your time wisely. Don't just do things anyhow. Because once it is gone, you can't get it back again. So if there's anything I will leave with you today is a second lost is lost to eternity. God bless you.